Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the MJD Newsletter podcast. I'm Anujoy and I'm glad to be back here. How are you guys doing? Let me know. Sorry for not being active for some time because my exams were going on and it's been like a tough schedule. So anyway, good to be back here. So my previous episode was about how I got into design and how I started to make designs, and I made like a few apps here and there, and that's it. It was just like a beginner perspective, and I talked about Figma and other stuff. Now, in the episode at the end, I talked a little bit about branding, and I actually am recently, I've been really into branding, and I kind of really appreciate the way basically companies present themselves. Like they have their logos and their fonts, their typeface, a lot of other stuff, and these things really get me. I really enjoy looking at designs and also trying to experiment with them. Maybe it's about creating my own design, or maybe it's something else, but it's actually really exciting when we look at design. And a really interesting thing that I find about it is that it is almost everywhere. Wherever you look at, you can see patterns and design, right? So you have design, like when you go out, there's nature. It's also kind of a design, and that design has a lot of structure. So wherever we go, we see structure, we see designs, and that's something that I really appreciate about it. So recently I've been into logo design. Now, one thing I like about logos is that they are so fundamental to a company's identity. And every time, whatever company does, maybe it's a business deal, maybe it's selling a product or advertising, they will use their logo. And a lot of companies that I observed here where I live is that they mainly try to focus on the business side of things. I know that's important too, but people don't usually focus that much on design. Now, one thing that I noticed is that it's not good, right? I recently attended this, like, kind of watched the Canva Create event, which was kind of organized by Canva, and there they talked that companies that have good design practices are more likely to get sales, and they're more likely to be, you know, to be a growing company. And I actually forgot the way they quoted it, but they pretty much said that. And that really got me and kept me thinking about logos specifically, because they are so fundamental. Whenever you look at design, the first thing of a company's design, you see the logo. You want to identify with this logo of, say, Spotify, Amazon, or Apple. We love all these companies. And one thing that really helps us identify those company and kind of separate that from other companies is the logo. Now, Spotify has this really interesting logo, right? They have this circle, and they have kind of this three curved lines inside the circles, and they have Spotify written with some small spacing there, and it looks really cool. One thing I love about Spotify's design, and I know I talked about Spotify in the last episode as well. So one thing I really appreciate about Spotify is their design, their app structure, and their fonts. Now, if you look at Spotify, I absolutely love their typography. It's so clean, yet it is so filled with non-spaced characters. When you look at Spotify, they don't really use a lot of spacing, but still the design looks so good. And the fonts and like the icons of Spotify, like recently the icons got changed, but not recently, a couple of months ago, and they actually look very exciting, and they are actually really exciting. So that's what I was talking about. Identity is so strong for companies, and companies which have good design practices are even better at expressing themselves to the public, and people can recognize them better when they are using design. So logos kind of give me that feel, of something deeper, something which has more connection than maybe a normal company that just uses like plain text to kind of demonstrate that their products and stuff. So when we talk about logos, I love the colors, the fonts, and the way icons and typography, they both come together to give a beautiful design, a beautiful structure. And when that logo comes out, that looks amazing. So I've been experimenting about typeface, fonts, and what fonts go well and what kind of pairing is actually good. So I kind of used to think that fonts and typeface are the same thing, but actually they are not. I kind of learned, like I was watching this Canva instructions video because I'm kind of sharing my learning journey here with design. So the fonts are kind of like the style, the weight, the width of a particular character. For example, like Helvetica Bold is a font, Avenir Light is a font, while typeface is the way or the design in which the letters are written, or numbers, or maybe symbols, right? So it's like a set of letters, numerals, and symbols. So for example, Helvetica is a typeface and Helvetica Bold is a font. In similar way, Avenir is a font. And I absolutely love those fonts. I actually really love Avenir. I'm into Avenir recently. So, and also there are two types of typefaces, right? Serif and sans serif. Now, serif is kind of, the old traditional one, which looks formal. It's easily readable because it has all these like kind of curves at the end, like at the beginning and end of each letter, and it kind of gives that formal look. And it is actually very readable. I think that's one of the reasons why most of the books, like physical books, use serif fonts, because it's very easy to read. And when you're reading like a big book or a big paragraph, it can be easier. It definitely, like, it will be easier to kind of miss some points here and there. But when you use a serif font, that helps keep your mind active while you're reading, because you're not going to miss details. And even the minor details, like those curves and those edges at the beginning and the end, that really helps kind of bring the design to life. And maybe, if there's a big paragraph with serif, you wouldn't miss a lot of words. And if you're just scanning it, it would be much more easier. Now, serif is actually great for physical books and maybe in screens as well, when you're dealing with a larger paragraph or a larger system. Now, next is sans serif. Sans serif kind of is the more modern, minimalistic kind of approach to typography. It's the font which does not have those curves and edges. It does not look formal. It looks modern. It looks new, and it gives kind of a fresh feeling. And sans serif is a type of typeface that you might use for those punchy headlines and those big headlines that might give you all the leads. And it's also really easier to read if it's like in a bigger font, and it kind of gives that feeling that companies want while they are advertising. And this is really good for reading on screens, definitely. And it has geometry, so whenever you see a sans serif font, it's going to have geometry. Google's font is the Google Sans font. Now I knew something about logos, and I did my experiment. I learned about design, a little bit about typography, and then I thought, let's make a design. Whenever I'm learning to design, I always want to keep an approach where I am learning and also I'm applying. Also usual in school, if I'm learning physics or maybe chemistry, I really want to learn from the teacher, and then I want to learn it back on myself. So, the usual way that I kind of learn science subjects is basically teacher teaches me, I come back home, and I kind of teach the same topic to me again. It sometimes takes some time, but that's how I have the best retention, and that's how I like to learn things. And I thought, why don't I bring that same system to learning to design? So I picked up my laptop and I opened Canva, the Canva Design School. It's a really helpful resource if you're a new designer. Definitely check out Canva Design School, and it's absolutely free, and it's actually really fun to use that website. And I went onto that site, and then I learned, and then I also applied hand in hand. If I learned about typography, I would maybe try to write some paragraphs using different typography. If I learned something about, say, using icons and matching that icons with the text, I did some experiment with that. So that's always been kind of an approach to learning for me, because if I don't see application, I don't find meaning. I decided to make a brainstorm for an airline. I know, you might be thinking, an airline? Seriously? Well, yeah, kind of. I actually really appreciate airlines. I'm kind of into aviation too. I absolutely love watching aviation videos. My Instagram reel feed is filled with two things: design, design guides, and then it's going to be aircraft and aviation. And so I was thinking, let's make a branding for maybe an airline. So I was just thinking about names and stuff. I kind of did my research. I was thinking how a logo could be different from the existing airlines that we have here in India, in US, and almost everywhere. And how can it also not look like a car company? It should look like an airline. So that was kind of running inside my head, and I was kind of researching about it, and I was thinking, okay, what makes a good logo? What makes a good logo? What makes a good logo for an airline? And then I thought, let's get started first. And then I thought that let's make a design which kind of gives a modern feel, because I really wanted to like make an airline brainstorm which is modern, which is fresh, and definitely is a little bit minimalistic and gives those kind of vibes. And I wasn't going towards a very formal thing. Like, there are some airlines that are very, very formal. Like, you need to wear like a coat and suit in order to go if you are like booking their first class and stuff. And those airlines are like full service airlines. I was not thinking about that because I really don't like these full service airline. I was kind of like, a little bit modern and a little bit fresh, clean, which is good service and stuff like that. So I kind of thought, let's make it kind of a fun vibe and a modern vibe. And then I decided to name Get. So this is like one of the most random names that ever popped into my head, and I actually liked it. So it's just Get, so Get, get apples. So it's Get. And the reason I named it Get is actually, I don't know that, but maybe because, it sounds kind of good, and then it just kind of shows that modern and fun perspective. Get, get it, get tickets, get the flight. So it kind of has this thing to it. And then I came up with a tagline. So I thought that let's name it something like some city's pride or something. Like, there's Qantas Airlines that says Australia's pride, something like that. No, Spirit of Australia, sorry. And then a lot of airlines have these kind of taglines. So I kind of thought, what can we name it? So I came up with our most random cities. So I kind of named a city myself. I named it Gaymark, actually. Gaymark. I know it sounds kind of different, but it's good actually. So Gaymark, and I named the tagline as Gaymark's Pride. So Gaymarks and Pride. I know what you're thinking, but yeah, it's actually good. So Gaymark's Pride, and then Get. Then I was like, okay, fine. Now I know what the name is, and that kind of catchy tagline that I have. And then I kind of thought, okay, so what can I do now so that I can make sure that the colors are matching and I have a nice icon. Next, I thought about an icon. So it's an airline company, right? So I was looking for airline icons on Canva, and I actually found a really good one. So it was like an airline with a huge tail, like the tail wings, like the elevators of the aircraft, and after that it was kind of going backwards, and it was like a long icon. I actually liked it. And then for the fonts, I chose HK Grotex Bold. Grotesque or Grotex, I don't know how you say it, but yeah, HK Grotesque Bold. And for the tagline, I used Avenir Light. I told you I'm into Avenir. So Get and then Avenir and Grotesque Bold, they kind of all matched really nicely. And when I actually changed the Get font to Grotesque Bold, HK Grotesque Bold, it actually looked really nice. And then the icon, for some reason, aligned with the logo perfectly. If you look at it, it actually aligns really well. Now, I actually really liked it. And then I've used Avenir for the tagline. It kind of went very well. And then I was like, wow, I must have created something good here. Well, obviously from my perspective. But if you want to see the design, guys, you can definitely check out the Instagram link where I've shared it. I will link it in the description for sure. And then I kind of saw the logo, I liked it. And for the colors, I was like, it needs to have some fun vibe and it needs to have some new modern vibes. So I chose orange. Now, orange kind of gives the fresh vibes, you know, orange kind of gives the nice feeling. Maybe it has something that really pops out. I'm sorry for all these notifications. I don't know why I'm getting all the notifications at once. Anyway, so I used orange for the icon. I used orange for the tagline, and for the get text, I use a kind of dark grayish color. For the background, I used kind of a cyan color, and it all kind of went good. And I actually liked it. And recently I applied for the Canva does this thing, we call it design challenge, Canva design challenge. So I kind of, and they were kind of, the theme for today's week was like logo design. So I was like, all right, I'm into logos, right? So let's try to do it. I actually didn't know that Canva would do a design challenge on logos before I started to learn it. So I just saw that they have this logo design challenge. So I was like, all right, fine, let me just apply. I definitely knew that I won't get selected, but fortunately, but by my surprise, I actually got selected. You know, I literally received received a DM from Canva, something that I never expected, and then they said that they really liked my logo and they would like to shortlist me for the design challenge. And I was like, oh my God, this is real. And there was this time when I was literally screaming with excitement. And God, oh boy, I was so excited. And it was fun. And I'm really glad that Canva liked it. And I really appreciate them selecting my design. And also, I kind of realized that the journey I'm in, which is trying to learn design and trying to be good at it, is actually working because Canva liked it. And I'm not really bragging about myself here. I actually have to learn a lot more about design, but still it felt good to kind of have been selected from Canva, and it's fun. Thank you very much, guys, for listening to the episode. Thank you, Canva, for selecting my design. And I am so glad that you sticked with me here, and I hope that you enjoyed it. Thank you very much. Have fun. Bye. What's wrong with these notifications, dude?